Hey there, I'm Melissa, and you're watching Behind the Trend. Our motto's simple: short stories, big insights. All right, today's news feels heavy. It's a mix of power, politics, and pressure in the US, across markets, and around the world. But don't worry, we'll unpack it together, piece by piece. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with something big, something that sent shockwaves through both Wall Street and Washington. The Justice Department has launched a criminal investigation into Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve. That's not something you hear every day. Powell isn't just a government official. He's the guy at the top of America's central bank, the one who makes decisions about interest rates, inflation, and the cost of borrowing money. So when his name shows up in a criminal probe, people pay attention. The investigation, according to reports, centers on a renovation project at the Fed's headquarters and whether spending and contracts were handled properly. Powell says the whole thing's politically motivated. He called it a pretext, suggesting it's less about construction and more about power, about trying to influence how the Fed operates. And here's the thing: the Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent, free from political pressure. That's what keeps the financial system stable. So even the idea that it's under investigation rattled the markets. Right after the news broke, the US dollar slipped, stocks tumbled, and gold prices hit new highs as investors rushed towards safer ground. People are asking, is the Fed really being targeted? And if so, what happens to trust in the system? This story's just beginning, but it's already one of the most significant economic moments of the year. Now, let's step outside the US to Iran, where the streets have been filled with anger and desperation. For 3 weeks now, protests have gripped the country. It started with frustration over rising prices and a collapsing currency. But quickly, it turned into something much bigger: a demand for change. Imagine this: tens of thousands of people chanting through the night, even as security forces close in. The government has cut internet access, blocked phone networks, and sent riot police into neighborhoods. Human rights groups say hundreds have been killed and thousands more arrested. It's heartbreaking. And it's not just about money anymore. It's about freedom and the future. And now, the Iranian government has issued a warning, saying it could strike US or Israeli military targets if it feels provoked. The world's watching closely because this isn't just a protest movement. It's a moment that could redefine the balance of power across the Middle East. Back home, another battle's brewing. This time, it's over immigration enforcement. The states of Minnesota and Illinois have filed lawsuits against the Trump administration, accusing it of overreach. Their argument is simple: that federal agents, especially ICE, have gone too far. They point to raids, local disruptions, and even a tragic shooting in Minneapolis that left one woman, Renee Nicole Good, dead. Protests have erupted in response, with people demanding accountability and transparency. The states say the federal government's actions have caused real harm to schools, businesses, and communities just trying to live their lives. When states start suing Washington, it's a clear sign of division, not just in policy, but in trust. Meanwhile, tensions are spilling across borders. Iran's unrest has put its government on edge, but it's also pulling in other countries. Officials in Tehran are warning that if foreign powers, especially the US or Israel, get involved, there'll be consequences. That's the kind of statement that sends a chill through diplomatic circles. And it's part of a pattern we've seen before: economic struggle at home, tough talk abroad. In moments like this, small sparks can light very big fires. So the world is watching, quietly, anxiously, hoping those sparks don't catch. At the same time, U.S. foreign policy is in flux. President Trump has issued fresh warnings to countries still trading with Iran, saying steep tariffs could follow. It's part of a broader effort to isolate Tehran, even as the U.S. continues to flex its influence in Venezuela, Cuba, and even Greenland. Each move might sound isolated, but they all share a theme: power and leverage. And in diplomacy, those two things matter most. Across Europe, there's unease. NATO allies are growing cautious as Washington's tone shifts from partnership to pressure. And countries like Denmark, who rarely make headlines, suddenly find themselves part of a new geopolitical tug-of-war. The world feels tense right now. maybe not on the brink, but closer than it should be. All right, let's come back to the numbers, because they're telling their own story. Job growth in the U.S. has slowed dramatically. Only about 50,000 new jobs were added in December, way below what analysts expected. And previous reports? Revised down. It's not a collapse, but it's a warning sign. And with high interest rates and inflation still biting, people are feeling it, from grocery bills to rent checks. Markets are jittery. Investors are nervous. And central banks, not just in the U.S., but across Europe, are walking a fine line between fighting inflation and avoiding a recession. It's a tough balancing act, and right now, nobody seems confident that they'll get it exactly right. Let's pause for a second. All these headlines, probes, protests, policies, they can feel abstract, but underneath them are people. In Minneapolis, a family is grieving a loss that sparked a national debate. In Tehran, parents are whispering to their children at night, hoping tomorrow will be calmer. And here at home, millions are just trying to stretch paychecks far enough to cover another month of rising prices. These aren't separate stories. They're all connected by one thread: uncertainty. And that's something everyone can feel. We talk about markets, but really, we're talking about confidence. We talk about policy, but really, it's about people's sense of safety and control. And right now, both feel like they're slipping. So where do we go from here? In the next few weeks, keep an eye on 4 things. First, the Powell investigation. If it deepens, it could change how much independence the Fed really has and how much confidence investors place in it. Second, the Iran protests. They might fade or they might ignite something much bigger. History tells us moments like this can redefine nations. Third, the economy. Watch those inflation numbers and job reports. If they keep sliding, we could be headed for a real economic cooldown. And finally, diplomacy. The world's power players are testing each other's limits. How far they go will shape not just headlines, but lives. You know, it's easy to see news as noise, a constant stream of crises. But at its core, it's about how we live, how we lead, and what we value. Today's stories, from the Fed to Iran to our own cities, all remind us of one thing: the choices made in power echo in ordinary lives. That's why we're here, to make sense of it, without the noise. I'm Melissa, and this is Behind the Trend. Short stories, big insights. Take care and stay curious.